Hi, and welcome to Heart and Light Living, episode 75, with a friend of the show, Steve Roehm. Hello, Steve.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Thanks for coming to talk to us about what I'm kind of calling breakthrough protocol, because you and I have done that together, but we're actually here to talk about an interesting aspect of like this really great condensed version
Hmm.
that you're doing in many ways that's called the identity overhaul that I believe can actually change everything for everybody that wants to
Uh,
do this.
well, yeah, if they want to do it, I was going to say not for everybody because
For everybody
well,
that wants.
I don't think everybody's ready for it
Okay.
because it's some really deep work, and not everybody's prepared to do the work.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's there for anybody who's willing and ready to look pretty deep into themselves, and if you're ready to make some changes in your life, come on.
Well,
But
I think that that's really kind of the work anyway that you've committed to do with people. And one of the things that I want to bring to our listeners today is that the conversation is about is about breakthrough. Okay, it's about overhaul. It's about who you are, who you want to be, where is the gap in between those two, and how can you actually fill it and close it, right? How can you actually start to manifest the you that you're here to be? And, it's not the kind of like breakthrough that just sounds really good, as Steve already said, if you really want to do the work, and we heard it in that booming deep voice, so he means business. You know, this is the kind of work that leaves your life and you changed. We're talking about the kind of breakthrough that does require saying, okay, I know that I'm not really the me that I want to be, and there's parts of me that I've really got to shift
mhm.
like big time. And I'm somebody, and I'm going to just revisit something about identity. And I just want to ask listeners out there, what part of your old identity are you still protecting, even though it might no longer align with the life that you say that you actually want? And so, like, I'm going to just a gentle reminder of this question for oneself as I am saying this, since I really need to hear this because I'm here today. What part of your identity, that's the old part of your identity, might you still be protecting, even though it no longer aligns with the life that you say you want now?
I would even expand that to what identity are you protecting
Okay, we can do that.
that's keeping you safe or secure in some way that doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, that doesn't align with who you are. Like, it doesn't matter. Somebody was asking a question. So, as Kentucky Derby is approaching, oh, it's kind of funny, Steve, because you're from Kentucky.
I am, and I've never been to the Derby.
Really?
I've never been.
Steve, I think we have to change that. That's kind of funny. But anyway, and I want to read this because it's about an identity that I believed that I had, right? About myself. And this was like a funny little Kentucky Derby, but it happened before we were coming on air. So I was like, oh wow, this is supposed to be. So your Kentucky Derby horse name is, then it has a little like colon, not to be confused with the colon that I work with, but a symptom of one of your mental challenges, and they have that in air quotes, and the last thing that you ate. Put
Hmm.
those two things together.
Hmm.
So I answered panicky pimento. And and then I kind of thought about it and I was like, wait, that was me. Now the pimento part is not going to change. That part of my identity is pretty locked in. But I said, no, today I would say that I've become compulsive pimento.
Hmm.
So panicky pimento was like an old thing about me. I actually would have like panic attacks about preparedness and readiness, like a lot of my life. That's why I was an overachiever, right? And one of the beliefs that I held about an identity that I thought was that, like, oh, I'm an overachiever. So I'm just achieving. And I was creating a lot of panic, like a little, like too much, you know? And I just want to revisit a time in my life where I had gone through trauma. This is long ago, when I had met you as a colleague and then as a client at the time.
Hmm.
Um, my identity was completely jumbled when I walked into your office because I was in complete trauma. I didn't know who the fuck I was. And I worked with you kind of rock solid for a year, okay, at my doing. Steve would love to probably say that, like, after a quarter or 4 or 5 months, I could have been doing probably more self hypnosis. I could have been doing more on my own, but I had felt so good that I wanted to keep feeling good. So that's part of the overachiever identity that I had that used to create panic. So my work with you in somebody, like, I was in a traumatized place, but I still had to shift my identity because I didn't want my identity to become the fucking trauma. That is probably the most powerful work to this day that I've ever done therapeutically for myself. More importantly than therapeutically, because I don't even know if I like that word. And as Uranus gets ready to enter Gemini, I think of it as it was humanistic work. As a human, I deserve to feel solid and to also say, I'm totally fucked up and I need to overhaul everything. And I'm willing to do the work to do that. And I was willing to do the work. I put in a lot of personal work in that 12 months. And then I wanted to do a training with you because I wanted to learn so I could commit to helping people. Because as a pastoral counselor, at that point, I had only had hypnosis one day in graduate school. And that was it. So I just want people to hear that because this is like kind of like a testimonial. And, if you can overhaul identity in trauma, imagine what you could do with intention when you're not in trauma and you just want to be the you that, and complete my sentence. What you do you think the person that wants to enter into this, what do they want to be? Yeah.
So what's your question?
The question is for the listener out there who wants to learn about an overhaul to their identity. A lot of us are realizing that the containers, the boxes, the labels, where we've placed ourselves, so many of us right now feel restless. So I was saying to the listener out there that's interested in overhauling their identity and just beginning to break through to that, if you were to tell them one sentence that could help them to identify that this could help them, what would it be?
If I could tell them one sentence that would help them, um, you don't have to be who you were. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Speak
But
to that.
but again, you have to be willing to look in the mirror too.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished a session with a woman a few minutes ago who was stuck in some stuff that happened 20 years ago because she had allowed herself at that time not to be present for the things she really should have been because of certain situations that were happening in her life. So she allowed external things to control who she was at that time. And unfortunately, she's held on to that regret for 20 years. And holding on to regret for 20 years only clouds everything that people experience in the moment because we only have so much attention to give anyway. So, I think this is true for a lot of people, is they're living through the old lens of who they thought they were. Many people not even living up to the values they hold for themselves anymore, because the values have changed. At 56, my values are not the same as they were when I was 30. But people still live through the lens of who they thought they should have been, even as they go decades into their life, and they're not even that person anymore. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of really stepping back, looking at the past, a lot of forgiveness that goes on. Because if people are continuing to carry the weight of something they can't even change now, then they're missing everything that's happening here. And if you're not being present, you're not being in the moment, then you're losing the life that you have right now to something that you can't even change anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. That's a powerful, yeah. To listen to somebody who carries something for 20 years, like holy
Well,
shift, like
it's every day.
no, there's no question it's every day. And I think that, it's like you shift the conversation from what am I doing wrong to like what part of me is like still organizing my life somehow in this very like old script where I might not have value alignment, where I might not, it, you know, why do so many intelligent, high functioning people that have like been through therapy, um, that have been through coaching, that have done the self-help work, like why do they keep repeating the same patterns? Even with massive insight, like what's really happening under the surface, Steve?
uh, well, insight's great, unless it's not programmed, and then it's just a thought. As far as high functioning people and why they're getting stuck where they are is because the values that they're holding on to are still they still think are important. They've gotten stuck in old stories. It's whether high functioning or low functioning, people get stuck in their own stories all the time.
Hmm.
And most of the stories that we make up about ourselves are based on bullshit that happened from an experience, based on the interpretation of that experience from a younger version of ourselves that doesn't even matter now. So people just they're stuck.
Hmm.
I had a client to tell me, we were going through one of the identity processes last month, and she said, "I feel like I'm swimming through fudge." She's a fellow in her she's a scientist. She's highly accomplished, and she was stuck in stories that literally came from 6 years old, growing up
Hmm.
with a grandmother who was very abusive, and she was still living through that.
Hmm.
So people carry their stuff all the time, regardless of who they are. Because I worked
There's
with.
no question. I just want to invite people into that space that might feel like they're doing really, really well in the world, but they still don't feel an alignment within themselves, a congruency.
Paper, they probably look good,
Hmm.
but
On paper,
on paper,
on paper. And so like what guides that change, that shift, that call? Is it the heart? Is it the discomfort? Can it be
I think
all of
that's.
those?
I think it's probably different for everybody.
Yes.
It's probably a realization that I'm done with this bullshit. I deserve better than this sometimes. I think everybody knows. I mean, when my clients show up, they really already know what the problems are.
Yes.
They just don't know how to get through them.
Hmm.
People who are
Hmm.
listening right now probably know exactly what the problem is, most likely exactly where it started. Just like the woman I was working with a few minutes ago. I mean, she knew exactly when it started. She knew how long it lasted. She knew, all the traumas that went through it because she'd relived them repeatedly, and they had affected every choice she's made for the past 20 years because of that. So, it's, yeah, people just get stuck in their old stories. But eventually, that quiet whisper that's behind all the bullshit That's the real you back there going, "Hey, you're better than this." And sometimes people hear it, and sometimes they don't. Just gotta be quiet
Well,
enough
I
to listen.
think, yeah, I think you make a really interesting, distinction, when we talk about insight and that doesn't really shift identity, right? It
No,
doesn't lead to transformation.
nope.
Um, and I really want listeners to understand from your perspective what the difference is. Because I think that that's a difference of a lot of sitting on a couch, if you will, for 20 years, as some people say they've done, and transforming something.
Hmm.
Insight versus identity are two completely connected different things.
Oh yeah, yeah. Insight's really more surface. Just because you have an understanding of something doesn't change the fact of what you're experiencing. You know, and the same thing with mindset. People get this idea that mindset is going to change everything, but just thinking about something isn't going to change it. You really have to bring in your full neurology and affect the change within yourself, and then everything else changes. But I'm not a big fan of just straight up mantras, because
Right.
just because you're saying something doesn't change what it is.
Correct.
Embody the experience of what you want while you're doing it, and then now you're starting to change not only your neurology, you're changing your focus, you're changing your attention, you're changing the way your mind is going to work after that.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a big difference between just a little bit of insight into something and actually affecting a permanent shift on the unconscious level, because that's the layer where the stories live, and we have to change the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves.
Mhm. I
Without even,
also
and we don't even realize we're telling ourselves those stories.
That's what I was going to say is that I think sometimes people have massive insight and they're still not comfortable in their embodiment, in their experience. And what they're doing is they're just spinning the needle on the record, right? They haven't like lifted it. Like it's the same story again and again and again. Excuse me. So the identity, like overhaul, that transformation is created. Give me an example, Steve, of a couple of things that you would take a client through in the initial, maybe the discovery call, or maybe somebody, if you feel comfortable, like sharing in an initial session, just to give us a framework.
Uh, well, in the initial call, I've got to make sure that we're going to be a good fit, because if we're going to spend a lot of time together, we need to like each other. Uh, quite
So give the
honestly,
criteria for what you're looking for in a client so we can be
just
specific.
a good conversation. So,
Great.
somebody I can relate to, somebody who relates to me, somebody I can joke around with. I like getting people to laugh on the discovery call, because I want to make sure that we can actually have some emotional movement. So there's a lot of stuff that I do that people are not even aware of while I'm having these conversations, because I'm listening to their language. I'm listening to the way they're approaching this. Is something they really want to do, or something they've been coerced to do, or something they think they have to do. Because if it's not something somebody wants to do, I mean, really desires to have the outcome,
Yeah.
they're never going to be genuine and authentic enough with me help them get through their stuff.
Mhm.
And people have a tendency to hold back a lot. So I want to make sure that people can relate, and we can connect, and they can be open and honest and genuine, and whatever it is that they're dealing with, they know that there's no judgment from me either, because I've probably been there. So who am I to judge anything?
Mhm.
So but I'm looking for a good relationship, because if they don't like me, it's not going to help. I can't help them. If I don't like them, I'm probably not going to want to help them. We have to have rapport. It's absolutely necessary, especially the way I work, because it's not just me guiding them through here. Do this. There's a lot of
Correct.
unconscious movement that's happening, and things that I'm doing throughout the entire process,
Hmm.
using neurolinguistic programming, using conversational hypnosis, using
Hmm.
conversational alchemy. There's People think we're having conversations, but there's a lot more behind everything I'm doing when I'm doing it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how I'm able on the colon hydrotherapy side of what I do. People are like, "Oh my gosh, Michelle, I've only known you for 20 minutes and like I feel totally comfortable with you in a very vulnerable like colon hydrotherapy session or, you know, in a higher self, hypnotherapy session." And I'm like, "Right, because there's intention that's gone into creating rapport with assessing your learning style, how you're processing, how you're actually, interfacing with me." And I think that that unconscious, and I've said this before when we've spoken, having that purview of having someone watch you and be beside you in that way, in such a sacred mirroring, is an extraordinarily intimate and powerful experience that you would have to have alignment in terms of the rapport. Absolutely, no question. Um, so Steve, how can somebody tell the difference between like their old like survival identity, like maybe something that protected them, like maybe something that they felt that they had to hold on to, and like the next version of themselves. Like that space, that in between, it's like you're ready to jump off the cliff and you're walking forwards and you're walking backwards and you're walking forward. How can you tell that old survival, that protected pattern from the new one? Is it just like it just feels so radically different? Does it make you, think, wow, I can't wait to shed this skin? Like, what is your experience with your clients and that
I think a sense of freedom
freedom? Mm-hmm.
because they're not stuck anymore. There are possibilities now because the identity that they have that are based on values that they're actually eliciting from themselves now in
Mm-hmm.
life. And, again, going back to the old stories that people get stuck in them and they think those are the stories that really dictate who they are now. It's a bunch of bullshit. We're the culmination of the experiences we've had and what we've done with them. Because people can go through exactly the same experience and have
Yes.
completely different perspectives on the other side of it.
Yes.
So, I think the stories that we tell ourselves shape our lives, but they're not who we are, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think there's just really a sense of freedom on the other side of it. There's a sense of possibility. There's an expectation rather than anxiety for the future. And there's actually some real possibilities they get to enjoy their life now. You know,
Tell us what you define identity as, Steve. What do you believe that to be?
identity. I think it's again the framework that we live through. It's the lens through which we live our lives. But the problem with those is, if you think about a multi-layered lens, like, well, think like a telescope. If you're looking through a telescope, if you're looking through a couple of different lenses, you can really focus very quickly. The problem is people trying to live through old stories and old ideas, and those things become filters, and then even like a polarized lens where you only see part of what's coming through there. And these layers build up and build up and build up, and then they're really not looking through the lens of who they are currently.
Mm.
They're looking through the lenses of who they've been.
Mm.
So identity, it's really just the framework that we live through.
Yes.
It's who we've decided we are, or who we think we are.
Yeah.
Usually it's a bunch of bullshit, though,
Uh-huh.
piled up on more bullshit, framed by some other bullshit.
Yeah. The BS, the belief systems, they get us all the time. Um, I think that people often mistake like familiarity, right? Like for truth and like discomfort. Like sometimes people they just feel like, oh, it's danger. And it's not, it's growth, right? Like discomfort can be like growing pains, like going to the gym, and being like sore as heck afterwards, like that. So I think that those belief systems and those stories and those lenses, I have a friend who used to say, the stories get longer.
Hmm.
And I didn't understand it at the time because I was like in my 30s and she was, like 25 years older than me. And I was like, oh, what do you mean the stories get longer? And now at the age that I sit at 57, I'm like, oh yeah, some people's like really do, but not everybody's has to.
You can start a new story all the time.
Yes.
I was talking to my client a while ago, and she was talking about reincarnation. I'm not sure where I stand with it. I do believe, though, that we reincarnate every morning,
Hmm.
and people come back every morning believing they're the same person they were yesterday. So, who do you want to be?
Right.
So, if you
Yeah. I
reincarnate
mean,
to a better version of yourself, then who do you want to be tomorrow?
hmm And I think that during this Aries season, and I just want to like really acknowledge that people are feeling the fire. I mean, people in their embodiment, I mean, because you can want an identity overhaul within your body, right? Like I did that with you years ago. You felt like shit in your body.
Mm.
You were in LA and I could, you had gained like a lot of weight. It was unusual for you. And you like in a month, I mean, men can take off healthfully like 30 pounds in a month. And you were doing it with a friend of ours who I'm not going to name because she's a Capricorn who never forgets. And she couldn't like budge the needle past like 15 pounds. And I just think that we can get stuck in identity in our body. Like my uncle Merv used to believe like he was the big man, So like you always had like three different kinds of meats when you went down to Uncle Merv's in Georgia, like, because he was like the big man. And I don't know that was great for his identity, right? He passed away from, so like his heart, like those stories and those labels. Yeah. So leading up to this was really interesting. Um, because as I get ready to do this, I think about people that are listening out there, our precious listeners, and just another me. Like, that's one of the things that I actually enjoy about my identity. Because, I think that a lot of times people think that you're only going to talk about what's wrong with you. And one of the things that I've personally loved about my work with you, and I love about the work I do with my clients, is that I also want to like get to what's really right with you and like grow that. And so I was thinking to myself, I was like, the part of my identity that I do enjoy is I am an observer who feels like alignment with what people need and then what I'm providing on the podcast. So I had a call today. And I'll talk to you later professionally when we're off camera about somebody who needs an identity overhaul. Like literally, that's what I was like hanging up with, like as I was coming on to this broadcast with you. And I was like, oh yeah, he needs Steve in his life. Da 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 da. And essentially, what we were talking about, because so this was like a concerned friend who's talking about what's wrong. And so, like, I asked a question. I said, well, you've known this person for like 35 years. You all have like a very significant history together. What's like the part of them and who they are that really works for you that you've been in a relationship with for 35 years? And she said, thank you for saying this to me because I I don't feel like my friend is in like this really traumatic place. It's funny because these two friends have both spoken to me about the other friend, and their concern, and they're actually reflecting within themselves a part of their own identity that they have to shed, which is the fear that something's going to happen to their friends, right? Like I am somebody, and I realized, Steve, this part of my own identity that I was always like the safe one of my friends. Like I didn't drink, like I wasn't the one to get drunk. Like I held this identity that I was the sober one. And you know what it became? I was the one who didn't have fun. I was the one who had to be the mama in charge of everybody. No, like it was just this story that I started to tell myself.
Hmm.
And I became like a more serious kid compared to my friends. It was a total bullshit story. Like I wish that I had just not worried, like literally when I was like in the club and just like enjoyed the Ramones or, seeing Madonna when I shouldn't have been seeing her and I was 14, but I was afraid something would happen to weird shit about our identities that we developed long ago. Like you were saying, as children, perceptions of things that aren't even remotely who we now are. What part of your identity do you think you need to overhaul?
Um, I don't know. I have to think about that.
Okay, we can come back to it.
We'll see.
Well, I'm just saying that one of the things that I like about the work that you do with your clients, and I like in general for people that are very human centered, is that just another me. Your expertise is obviously helping people to do these things, right? Within themselves. You're not doing them to anyone. Okay. They're they went along for the ride. Like they're in all hypnosis is self like you and I are in a trance now, right? Like that's just what it is. That's a really powerful thing that we just kind of gloss over is like the willingness to put ourselves in the space of saying, there are parts of me that I really love. There's parts of my identity that are really kind of just not as comfortable as they used to be. And I'm not exactly sure how that's going to look on the other side of things, but I know it's going to look better. Is somebody that comes to you with that somebody that you could work with?
Hey, again, it's I have to sit and have a conversation with them. Of course
So
they have.
non-committal.
I don't commit to anything because I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't take on every person who calls me.
No, obviously, nor
You
do I.
know?
But I'm
So
saying somebody who has the willingness, but that might not know where they can even go yet because they haven't.
most of my clients have no idea where the hell to go.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to. Yes.
Yeah, most people have no idea what to do. If they did, they wouldn't call me.
And we don't know how fucking powerful we are until we really start to take a perspective of ourselves that's a different one. And you walk people through that. It's just sometimes it's okay to not feel like we know what we need, but we know we need something different. That's enough. And I just want to invite people into that space that that in and of itself is a breakthrough. And that in and of itself is a shift that can actually begin a complete overhaul if that's what you feel like you need, right? And the thing that I enjoy about Breakthrough Protocol, and you and I have worked together like 3-day intensive, 8 hours a day. half a day with me, half a day with you, with clients. And in 3 days, I've had people say that they've accomplished more than they have in a decade, of certain interventions and different services and things that they were in alignment with. So I also believe it to be very powerful and very freeing to think that you can do this shift rather quickly, depending upon the depth that you want to get into. And I know that the identity work is different than breakthrough protocol. And I'd like for you to speak to those two things before we kind of get out of here today.
Um, I don't know that they're that different, honestly. Um, Ultimately, because
Hmm.
really the end result is to change the way you perceive yourself and what your possibilities are. So I think to that end, it's largely the same. The thing is with both of those works, it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen. With the identity shift, what I'm doing with it is very structured. I know exactly where we're going to go with it. With the breakthrough, I never know because it depends on where the person's starting.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of hypnosis that happens more in the breakthrough than I actually do. I use a lot of conversational hypnosis in the identity shift, but people aren't typically aware that it's happening while it's happening. Where it's a bit more overt when I'm doing the breakthroughs.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying I don't use conversational hypnosis throughout because I do, but there's a deeper shift I think that happens during a breakthrough in going through deeper levels of trance work with that.
Hmm.
So ultimately, they're both the result is to find yourself in a different place on the other side.
Hmm. The time frame is different. The structure is different.
A bit, yeah. Like with the identity work I'm doing right now, it's typically 4 3-hour sessions.
Hmm.
Sometimes over 2 days. I've spread it out over four.
Hmm.
And I'm actually offering a group protocol now that's going to be over a 30-day period. So we'll meet an hour and a half twice a week for 4 weeks. And that way people have time to really step back, reassess things in their life. So it's going to be a little bit different, but again, ultimate result is to realize that you're fucking better than you thought you were.
Hmm. Yeah. And the group work affords people, I guess, the opportunity to work with you in a way that they might not otherwise, have some of the resources that it would take individually to do.
Yeah, because the work, I mean, to do the work individually, we're talking about a lot of hours. And it's not just the time that we spend together, it's the time preparing for it, it's the time that I'm spending afterwards and the work that I'm doing. Because
Sure.
yeah, so doing it one on one, obviously, it does require a bit more resources. But the group, I think there are benefits to both, I think. Because with group work, you have other people going through the same processes,
Mm.
we
Yeah.
can build a community out of that, so people can connect with each other and really help each other go through that.
Beautiful.
So, but yeah, I think both are beneficial. It just depends on how people want to approach it, and again, what the resource situation is too.
Hmm. Okay. So, ready for some questions? Not the
Sure.
lightning round. We're going to just warm up.
Okay.
Okay. So, what's the biggest lie that an outdated identity might tell you?
What's the biggest lie? That you're not worth the life that you have. That's
Hmm.
probably the one that comes up first. Um,
Yes.
I don't want to say it's a lie because it's only not truthful in the moment because it has been.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing about the identity. The identities were there to really protect you in some way, or keep you safe, or you know, keep things more in line and keep your belief about who you are intact. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with it. So, but yeah, that you're not worthy is probably the biggest one.
Okay. Um, how do you know that you're not failing and that you're actually in the middle of an identity shift?
Uh, are you continuing on?
It's a great
you're,
answer.
you're only failing if you stop.
That's right.
You know, if you give up on yourself and then you have absolutely failed yourself.
Yes.
You know, I think life requires a bit of tenacity.
Spoken like a true Aries. Okay. What's one part of your identity that you would overhaul?
I don't know yet. I'll have to think about it. I'll let you know in 14 minutes
Okay, great.
because we have 11.
One sign that your nervous system needs more support.
One sign that your nervous system needs more support. Um, Anxiety, depression,
Mm-hmm.
two biggest ones.
Trance work is incredible work to help to support the nervous system.
Sure.
It is an incredible walking, waking opportunity that many of us kind of waste the trance. Um,
Well, people don't practice it.
correct. Correct. One sign that you're moving in the right direction.
Success, failure, 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 success, success, failure, 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 success.
Nice.
I mean, it's just if you're
It's
moving,
feedback. It's no
yeah,
failure.
if you're moving, you're moving in the right direction. Unless you're, self-destructing.
Okay, so this is something, Steve, that I really want you to like. There are people that are afraid of changing too much out there.
Okay,
Okay. So, what's one sentence for the person who's afraid of changing too much?
get over it. Um,
Yeah, that's good. No, that's a good Steve answer. Get over it. Stop
yeah,
it was what came to mind for me.
yeah, pretty much.
We go back to that a lot. One truth for the listener who keeps having insights but not real change.
One truth.
Yeah,
You need help.
right on. Okay. So, in this time and space that we've shared together, I think that it's really interesting for us to all possibly examine and identify the old roles that we're kind of done performing. I'm thinking of one for me, Steve. I might be almost ready to give up the bug phobia thing.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, it's really only there for protection, for the most part.
yeah,
You know, um, but yeah, it's
yeah.
and some of phobia. I don't think is necessary.
Though it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't
Right,
have to be that.
right,
Yeah,
right.
um, and a good respect for them is fine. But
No, no, yeah.
you shouldn't play with all of them. Uh,
I do have respect, and
roly
I
polies are fine.
oh my,
Ladybugs are fine.
ladybugs are fine. Dragonflies are my friends. Bees, bumblebees. Yeah. So, okay. Well, let me ask you this, my friend. Um, do you ever suggest, because I will do this with my clients, and it's like just one sentence for who you're emerging into, who you're becoming, and I know like affirmations and those things, I'm not a huge affirmation person. However, I do believe that we speak into existence that which is. And so, for me, I know I will tell myself, like, I am healthy, I'm a powerful creator, um, and I love my body, and those things at times have just been versions of me that were emerging. They weren't completely there. But I believe that speaking and giving that love to ourselves and starting to transform our own identities through our own words, through the stories and the things that we say about ourselves and who we are and how we move in the world is one of the most important things that I've learned as a client and through working with my clients is that these reframes actually become, I think, steps along the way to overhauling who it is that we want to become and identity wise living fully as we believe that we can and are called to from deeply within us. I've never culturally seen across the globe as many people desiring transformation, either directly in their own lives, politically in the life of their nations. Like people are craving new identities. I believe that that is tied to Saturn and Neptune entering Aries. Neptune for 14 years, Saturn for 7. So you have the teacher, Father Time, the disciplinarian coming into your I am, saying, who are you? And that's one of my favorite lines from Alice in Wonderland. That's the whole, like, to me, that's one of my favorite lines because you get to decide that and you get to be reborn and reincarnate every day. That's a very powerful place to kind of land in one's existence. All right. So, you'll get back to us about what part of your identity?
Maybe.
Don't say maybe. You're going to get back to me on this. I have an idea.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they're good
Interesting.
ones.
Okay.
I mean, rarely do I have bad ideas, right? So, like, I just want to leave our listeners. See, I didn't give you a chance to answer that question. I just want to leave our listeners with like an opportunity of reflection as you move about your day today. And when you're done with the day and you're kind of giving thanks for what's been, ask yourself, am I operating from the version of me that I want to be? Or might I be operating from a version that's a bit outdated? And you get to decide, which way you want to go. But I think that beginning to call attention to those things is a great opportunity to begin your own transformation now. Anything else that you want to say?
Create a great day.
Create a great day. Thank you so much, y'all, for listening, for being with us. Steve, for sharing time and space with us. How do we reach you? I know you say you're right there. Where is there?
SteveRoehm.com.
SteveRaim.com.
ROEHM.
So sometimes the breakthrough is not that you become someone else, right? Sometimes the breakthrough is that you stop betraying who you already are and come home to you. Thanks, y'all, for being here. We'll catch you next time.